In the book Sapiens, author Yuval Harari discusses how we believe in corporate entities the same way we believe in deities and gods. And he uses the example of Volkswagen. If Volkswagen were to destroy all of its vehicles, fire all of its employees, destroy all of its factories, Volkswagen would still exist on paper. That doesn't mean Volkswagen goes away. However, if Volkswagen were to keep all of its infrastructure, but were to close its doors, sell off all of its shares, cancel all of its assets, then the company known as Volkswagen would no longer exist, even though your ex-girlfriend still drives drunk and stalks you in a 2005 Golf. And the same thing can be said for the artist Jeff Koons, an artist that some say is the event horizon of fine arts transition from this socially disrupting, this genuine force, into an asset class whose only purpose is to make the rich richer. And rather than standing on his own as an artist, he's definitely more emblematic of capital A art as like a corporate entity that would still exist regardless of its employees. Some people also see him as one of the most important artists of the 20th century, someone who has effortlessly combined low and high culture, tooled them meticulously, and blown them up into these giant monuments for the human subconscious. And in some way or another, Jeff Koons is one of America's most controversial artists. In a career that spans lawsuits, hundreds of millions of dollars, and actual pornography, is it possible to call Jeff Koons a good artist? Jeff Koons grew up in York, Pennsylvania. He attended the Maryland Institute College of Art and the Chicago Institute of Art, two very prestigious schools. There's nothing of interesting to note in Jeff's early life, except that it's genuinely surprising that he went to art school, for reasons I'll explain later. He moves to New York in 1977, where he gets a job selling memberships at the MoMA, and this is something that he was so good at, membership doubled while Jeff worked there. Reflecting on his time there, Jeff said that no one was trying to sell memberships, they would just offer them when people asked for them. So Jeff wanted to sell them, really be a salesman. He would do this by wearing a polka dot vest and like all these inflatable things on him, and would basically distract people while he sweet talked them into getting memberships. Jeff is like a natural salesman, because after this, he got licensed to sell stocks and mutual funds and became a commodities trader on Wall Street, something he was like prolifically good at. Some have compared it to the scene in Wolf of Wall Street when Leonardo DiCaprio was on the phone and everyone's standing around him watching him close the deal. That background in sales, to some people, sort of invalidates his entire career, because he comes from this place of dishonesty, trying to convince you of something rather than letting his work stand on its own. So keep that in mind as we move forward. Jeff became a stock trader because he needed to fund his art career, and he didn't want to do it the traditional sense by going into galleries and kind of peddling himself. He just wanted to fund it immediately. So once he got the funds, he did his first solo exhibition in 1980, which is an exhibition called The New, and featured these sculptures of vacuum cleaners lit up in these fluorescent cases. This is a type of sculpting called ready-mades, where you use objects that already exist. It was coined by Marcel Duchamp with his famous piece, The Fountain, which is just a urinal. I think The Fountain originally, and that whole concept of ready-mades, is the first time when people have asked, like, is this art? Is this really art? That's a question that people ask a lot in regards to Jeff's career. Now, Koons has some more work in the 80s. He does his series called Equilibrium, which is these 3 basketballs floating. And he follows that up with a series called Luxury and Degradation. It's a series of framed advertisements for liquor, and then in front, these stainless steel sculptures, which are actually flasks for alcohol. This is the first time that Koons uses stainless steel, something that will be the hallmark of his career later on. He uses the material because he calls it the proletariat material. It's this easy to purchase and cheap product which can be polished just like silver or gold. After Luxury and Degradation, the real controversy in his career begins. And that's with his series Banality, which is a group of sculptures that actually landed him 5 lawsuits. 5 lawsuits for sculptures that he didn't even make. Now, as I mentioned before, how it's surprising that he actually went to art school, he doesn't actually make his own work. Kind of like Andy Warhol, he has a team of people where he just has the idea and they make it for him. He's never actually involved in the process. He has no technical talent. Now, in that sense, I think it's best to think of Jeff Koons as a CEO of an artistic brand, rather than as an actual artist. But what was the Banality series? There's these porcelain sculptures of tchotchkes, stuffed animals, and this sort of ubiquitous, well-known imagery from the 80s. Things that everyone grew up around. He used this imagery because he wanted to find objectivity in art. He wanted to present the audience with something they understood on a very primordial sense, right? Something that he believed was lacking in art, because art has far more about the artist exploring their subjective feelings towards the world, rather than trying to create objectivity for the audience. There was 3 versions of each sculpture, and the gallery opened in 3 locations at the same time: New York, Chicago, and Cologne. And Jeff, from his own pocket, paid for full full-page magazine ads advertising the show. In the objectivity that he's searching for, Koons says that this series was never meant to be critical. However, he went back on that, saying that the entire show itself was a parody of the audience and the audience's subconscious search for tacky, kitschy things. And he did this because he got sued 5 times. And his lawyers needed an argument on how his sculptures fell under fair use. But because none of the actual sculptures themselves were parodies of the images they were depicting, they lost all the lawsuits. They lost lawsuits for sculptures like this one, which features Odie from Garfield, or this one, which appropriates this famous image of this couple holding all these puppies by photographer Art Rogers. Oh my I cannot believe his name was Art Rogers. That's like if someone called me Content Jones. And we're not even at the fucking porn yet. If art was a superpower, it would be the ability to make anything you touch valuable. Many people know the story of Salvador Dali scribbling on all of his checks at restaurants because the actual drawing on the check was worth more than the monetary amount of the check. Something worthless is now a piece of art because an artist says it's a piece of art, and Jeff Koons is now a proud owner of this power. He's on fire, the Banality series is a big hit. What does he do? What does he do with his power? He makes porn with his wife, and he puts it in the big white walls of a gallery. Jeffrey, please. Again, exploring objectivity and presenting the audience with just sex. Just plain old classic sex. And he's like, here, look at this sex. You understand this, right? This is classic. Jeff's a big objectivity guy. He's really autistic. He's not schizophrenic, he is autistic. The woman he hires, the woman that eventually becomes his wife through this endeavor, is an Italian porn actress, famous at the time, named La Cicciolina. She is also known for being a member of the Italian parliament. And in case you're wondering, she ran on a libertarian platform opposing NATO membership and nuclear energy. She also offered to Saddam Hussein before the Gulf War started to try to calm him down. It's fucking stranger than fiction. When this debuted at the prestigious Venice Biennale, people were shocked. Not in like a good art shock way, more like in a you just posted cringe in general kind of way. I could have plenty of fun clowning on Jeff, but this is not a detailed biography about Jeff. We're here for the art. We're here to talk about art right now. So let's do a speed run. We have Puppy, which is a giant dog made of flowers that has its own irrigation system so it never dies. Many paintings, none of which he worked on himself, of course. Recently, he's been working on these perfect representations of master paintings with these metallic balls in front of them he calls gazing balls. This brings us to what he is most known for. This is why you clicked on this video, because you saw the thumbnail and thought, that looks familiar. These giant stainless steel balloon sculptures. And look, this is an image that people have seen before. Most people watching this have seen this balloon dog. I'm in a hotel lobby in Toronto, and there's a Jeff Koons sculpture in here. And I could go into why Jeff did this and the theory behind the artwork, but at the end of the day, the only reason the theory exists is so that some gig writer can write a nice little column for Sotheby's so that people who buy Jeff's work can feel intelligent. You know what matters more than the theory behind this work? The fact this dog sold for $58 million, making Jeff Koons the most expensive living artist of all time. And with that in mind, is someone in the future gonna look at this dog and go, ah yes, the polished surface is really a mirror, tempting the audience to look within? Or is someone gonna go, oh my that sold for $58 million? These are truly decadent and devilish times we live in. I wonder if the guy who bought Orange Balloon Dog knows someday that him and everyone he loves will die. I was in New York and I went to the Whitney Gallery. In the gift shop of the Whitney Gallery, they had a commemorative plate with the balloon dog on it. It was for sale for $11,000. And I thought, well, that's pretty fucked up. That's a lot of money for this plate in the gift shop of the Whitney. And I found out that it was an actual Jeff Koons work. It wasn't a commemorative plate. Jeff Koons signed off on that. His own artwork is for sale in the gift shops of the galleries that he's shown in. You can go online and buy this. The balloon dog has become sort of a platonic ideal. It's imagery that's so ubiquitous to the absurdity of Western consumer culture that it's been parodied in Grand Theft Auto 5. Is this good? And does the proliferation of it mean that it's good? Ask yourself and tell me the answer, because I'm a fucking moron and I have no clue. Of course I could say that art is subjective and that's a cop-out, but I'd be lying to you if I said I didn't think this was interesting. There's something visually novel about a balloon dog made of stainless steel, 15 feet high. There's something really interesting about seeing that balloon dog shown at the Palace of Versailles, an extremely controversial show because people thought so poorly of the balloon dog they didn't want to sully the environment of the Palace of Versailles. It's interesting in the same sense that Dali's lobster phone is interesting. It's a weird visual juxtaposition. It's something you don't expect. And that sort of weirdness, that novelty, it makes it the perfect piece of expensive contemporary art. it means nothing. And in the future, when people look back on this, they're gonna look at it as symbolic of a time so devoid of existential threats and meaning. All that mattered was the meaningless exchange of capital and a good return on investment. The only reason to take contemporary art seriously is to justify the $40,000 of student debt you've accumulated by taking an art theory degree. I wish I could make a video and finish it without having an existential crisis, but these are truly decadent and devilish times we live in. So, the thesis of the video. Is Jeff Koons a good artist? It doesn't really matter. Is Jeff Koons gonna make someone very, very rich? Yes, 100%. Do we live in devilish and decadent times? Oh Lord, yes we do. If we want this to change, how do we move forward? It's easy to clown on contemporary art. Ooh, it's so easy to clown on contemporary art. But as easy as it is to blame the art didn't do anything wrong. Jeff Koons didn't do anything wrong. We can't blame Jeff Koons for being successful, but we can blame the market for propping art like this up. We can blame a culture that seeks meaningless art, because meaningless art is the perfect vehicle for capital. Art that has no message or connotations. Art that can't wane in popularity as the social tide shifts and changes. When art's only use is as an asset class, this is the art that's gonna reign supreme. And if you find yourself growing sick of the Jeff Koons of the world, the Damien Hirsts, the Cause, the Beeples, don't ask the artist to change, ask the culture to change. Force the culture to change. Accelerate towards a culture that once again values meaning and beauty. I think right now, the best thing we can look forward to in art is some fucking sick neo-colonial propaganda. Let's fucking go!